continue the trade talks because none of them involved picks. Did it obviously didn't generate what you thought? Do you still feel you just kind of revisit those this week?
Well, I had some discussions, so I furthered those along. So I thought it was actually a pretty productive day. It didn't result in a deal, but I thought I had some good talks today.
Do you feel it's necessary to acquire a D-man before free agency rather than hope to get a guy there?
A different dynamic before July 1 versus after July 1. The market shifts a little bit. You just have to know where the market goes. So, I mean, it might be a little bit easier before. Otherwise, you have to wait a bit till the market clears out a bit. There's not a lot of D on the UFA market, so I don't think that would be too long.
Yakupov said he wanted a trade. Did you try to trade him at the draft?
He never told me he wanted a trade.
His agent did,
though. No. So I'm not going to comment on that.
Do you feel more confident now that you will be able to get a defenseman before free agency than when you came to the draft?
I had positive discussions this week, and if I didn't have any discussions, I'd be a little disappointed, but I had positive discussions, and we'll see where it goes.
With Tyler Benson, I mean, you mentioned yesterday you guys had talked about maybe trying to grab another pick in the late first round, but that your guy was still there, so were you happy when he was sitting there?
Happy. Obviously, some questions, at least publicly, with his injury, but we've picked and prodded at him at length, and very happy with that pick. That might have been the guy that we would have moved up on.
The good fortune of last night change the way you look at your roster in terms of who may or may not be available, because you're probably adding in a piece that you didn't expect to have?
That's a good question, because I mean, and again, without saying that Puljujärvi will play, he's a lot more likely to play than the other guys behind him. I've always thought that those first three have a real good chance of playing and contributing, and he's one of the first three, meaning Laine, Puljujärvi, and Matthews. So yeah, it creates a different dynamic when we're trying to retool the roster, and it gives you a little more options.
Can he be Curry
I tell you what, he's a complete player, and he's got an underrated shot. Like we all hear about Patrick Laine's shot. He's got a terrific shot. So there's some similarities. Yeah, there's some similarities.
Yesterday you said in round 3 you were hoping to address some organizational depth. You went with all defensemen. You took 4 defensemen last year in the draft. Was it ultimately you just felt like those guys were too good to pass up, or is that still an area of organizational depth?
I just think the more D we can get, the better. We took, and then we tried to address the right D also with Berglund and Desharnais. They take longer to develop, so we got some skill guys in there too. But I think Graham McPhee's an intriguing pick. Bob will talk more about it, but I think he kind of flew under the radar at the development team, and he's got some skill and he's got some heart like his old man. So yeah, but on the D question, yeah, we want to continue to stockpile depth there.
Peter, GMs who are in your position trying to add defensemen have come out and said the prices are too high, and I imagine if they weren't, you'd have a deal done. How do things change over the next few days? Is it just a waiting game, or how does?
You just got to grind away, and like for example, a couple of the discussions I had today, the positions had softened. So I think gradually, I guess what usually happens whenever there's a deadline or a milestone, there's a loosening up. So the next one is July 1. So we're in the shopping period. There's some movement there. It's July 1, so we'll see. We just got to grind away.
How many calls did you get around the clock for teams trying to jump into that?
I got a few right away. Yeah. It made you feel good about it.
You said yesterday, we asked you about, or Friday, about trying to get a number 1 defenseman, and you said, I don't know if I can do that, but you had some bridge kind of deals. They wouldn't be typically number 1 defenseman, though. Is that what you were talking about, per se, in a deal?
They're just hard to get number 1 defensemen. It's just there's not many of them. They're hard to get. But over half the teams in the league don't have one. So by definition, at least in my opinion. So there's deals out there, Jim, that we're working on that have good defensemen in them, and they're smart. They can move pucks. They're different players, and you know, as I said, I'd prefer a right shot, which is what we're focusing on.
How do you, if the fans back home are saying, "Hey, where's the trades?" I mean, I presume the fans back home are saying, "Okay, we want to get these picks," and they're thrilled with Puyarvi and Benson, but they're saying, "Okay, where's the ready-made players?"
Yeah, I can understand their frustration, I guess, but I mean, you got to make the right deal. Like I'm having a lot of discussions.
If Puyarvi dropped to 4, how much consideration would you have given to drafting a defenseman?
We gave it a lot of consideration. Yeah, a lot of consideration.
Should we expect you to sign a veteran goalie, and then when July 1st comes?
I think we'll look at possibly filling that spot and allowing Brossoit to compete also.
Peter, I just spoke to George McPhee, and he drafted his son, and he had a lump in his throat. Just not realizing how special that moment is. Just the thought process on Graham.
Well, you know what? We've watched him closely. He gets a lot of exposure on that national development team. You know, he for whatever reason he didn't play a lot, but when we saw him, we had good viewings. He's got really good skill, and he plays with an edge. You know, he's got to develop. He's got to get bigger and stronger. He's got a real good shot release. A smart player. And if you remember George when he played, he's got a heart of a lion, and this kid has the heart of a lion. So that helped us in selecting him.
Did you talk to George about Graham, or
Yep.
after or before?
I talked to him at Grand Forks and stuff. Yeah.
Peter, you have Greibe as an unrestricted too. Is there any talks there of getting him done before?
I spoke with his agent today, and I think Eric's getting married today, so we're going to talk after the weekend.
You want him back?
Well, we're going to look to see what we can do.